King Frederick and Queen Mary make their royal debut, but would King Charles ever abdicate the throne? Royal expert Richard Fitzwilliams weighs in.
I do see William and Catherine, given the fact that Charles and the King and Queen Camilla are in their mid-70s.
Plus, Prince Harry to receive a Living Legend of Aviation award, as a new book suggests that he did not get the Queen's blessing to name his daughter Lilibet. And Princess Kate's uncle slams the crown for his family's depiction in the final season of the Netflix show. We've got that plus so much more in today's Royally Us. Everyone, I'm Christina, and that's Christine, and welcome to a big week of royal news. We have a new king and queen of Denmark. The royals are getting back to work, and this new bombshell book that's getting a lot of attention.
Yep, these are some good stories to get into this week. I'm really excited. Kind of a really diverse set of stories, from the new king and queen all the way to sort of stories that we've really wondered the answers about for a while.
Definitely. All right, well, let's get right into it. But before we get started, we have to talk about this breaking news. Princess Kate is on the mend after having surgery. So Kensington Palace announced on January 17th that the Princess of Wales underwent a planned procedure at the London clinic. Kensington Palace released a statement saying that the surgery was successful, and it is expected that she will remain in the hospital for 10 to 14 days before returning home to continue her recovery. Based on the current medical advice, she is unlikely to return to public duties until after Easter. So according to Kensington Palace, Kate will be taking a break from upcoming royal engagements, adding that she appreciates the interest that this statement will generate, but she hopes that the public will understand her desire to maintain as much normality for her children as possible, and her wish that her personal medical information remains private. They said that they will be releasing more information when it's significant and it's new information to share. She apologizes to those that are concerned for the fact that she is postponing her upcoming engagements, and she's looking forward to getting back to work as soon as possible. Like we said, after the Easter holiday, which is at the end of March. So we wish her a speedy recovery, but definitely some big breaking news out of Kensington Palace. All right, well, let's get right into it, starting with the Prince of Wales. He went to Headingley Stadium in Leeds to pay tribute to two great friends and congratulate them on how they've raised awareness for a debilitating disease. Rob Burrow and Kevin Sinfield have paired up to help raise millions for research and work to combat motor neuron disease after he was diagnosed with MND in December of 2019. So just 2 years after retiring from playing for Leeds for the rugby league, the pair, who played alongside each other from 2001 to 2015, were both awarded in the New Year's honors list for their charity work, and Prince William surprised the men with the honors during the visit. So this was a very special moment for everybody, because since Burrow's diagnosis, he has inspired a fundraising drive to bring in an astonishing $19 million towards research into the illness. Some $11 million was raised by his friend and former teammate, who has done everything from running 7 marathons in 7 days and other endurance challenges. So this definitely seems like it was a really great event, and so nice that Prince William stepped out for it.
Yeah, it was so nice to see him out supporting this incredible amount of fundraising. I also love any event that Prince William sort of is engaged in sports. It really feels very down to earth that he's such a sports fan, but I think then it becomes more accessible to other men, other people watching these and sort of seeing these photos, and sort of it makes, all of this is about raising awareness, but also making conversations easier, bringing these things, into conversation, normalizing them, especially for men who don't like to talk about, their feelings or serious subjects or their health. I think that every time Prince William does something like this, it's just so good.
It really is. It's really a wonderful thing. And they're raising so much money for a great cause and for research and things like that. So definitely doing some good work. Well, Prince Harry is kicking off his new year, and he is set to receive a special award for his service as a military helicopter pilot. He was announced on January 10th as one of the honorees for the 21st annual Living Legends of Aviation Awards. The ceremony will be held on January 19th and will be hosted by John Travolta. So in addition to Harry, there are 3 other honorees who will be acknowledged for their contributions to the aviation field. including former Navy pilot and world-renowned writer Fred George, CEO of flight training company CAE Inc., Mark Parent, and former world speed record holder and film pilot Steve Hinton. So Harry is receiving the award for his 10 years of military service with the British Army as a helicopter pilot. He received many honors for his service, including his flying wings. He also created the nonprofit Invictus Games, as we know, and he has been helping veterans all around the world. So I'm sure that this definitely is going to mean a lot to get a Living Legend Aviation Award.
Yeah, this probably means so much to Prince Harry. His work with the military, with veterans means so much to him. You can just tell that that's really where he shines. It's the work that's most important to him. So being recognized in this way, I'm sure, is hugely flattering, and probably feels really good that all that work, all that, time that he's put in is being recognized.
Definitely. And I can't wait to see the photos of him and John Travolta, because as we know, John Travolta has that famous photo with Princess Diana back in the day. Yes. I'm sure they won't be taking a spin on the dance floor, but definitely kind of like a full circle moment.
Yeah, will they be having a little spin, maybe just for the photo? Yeah.
Definitely. Well, history was made in Denmark as King Frederik and Queen Mary stepped out, making their royal debut as the new monarch and queen consort. Shortly after, Queen Margaret officially stepped down by signing a declaration of her abdication. King Frederik stepped out solo on the palace balcony. He waved to the cheering crowds from the balcony. He looked emotional, wiped away some tears. Denmark's prime minister then stepped forward and proclaimed the change of reign from the balcony. In Denmark, he gave a short speech and announced his royal motto. He was then joined by his wife, who looked very beautiful, and they, shared a sweet embrace and things like that. And this is also interesting because there was a surprise revelation in a local Danish newspaper that the Queen actually told her son that she was stepping down just 3 days before she shared the news with the world. So that was probably quite the shock, I would imagine. But yeah, so only a few days to prepare. I love how I think we said it before that she definitely just gave in her 2 weeks notice.
Yeah, put in her 2 weeks notice. I mean, she had been on the throne for over 50 years. This is definitely a well-earned retirement. But she's the first Danish monarch to abdicate in 900-year history. So it's a huge step. It might have even seemed taboo at one point. And she said for a long time she would never abdicate. She would stay in her role until she died. And something has clearly changed. I think she's just decided it is time to step back. And we may have talked about this, seeing Queen Elizabeth II's death following, and King Charles's coronation to follow. A coronation after a death is a really sad affair, whereas following an abdication is a bit happier. It's more hopeful. And I think we've definitely seen that here. The Danish monarchy is hugely popular in Denmark. And so I think this was just a really positive, happy, sort of optimistic event. I think they'll do fantastically well. King Frederik and Queen Mary are already very popular. And so it was an incredible historic moment, and really interesting to see an abdication that was just really so well received, even with the short notice, which I think is really wild. It's been overwhelmingly well received by the people.
Definitely. And with the point that you just made, saying that, this is a happy occasion now that there's that abdication and then a new reign, we wanted to see if maybe this is something that King Charles would ever think about. So we asked royal expert Richard Fitzwilliams this question, and here is what he had to say as we break down the royal rules. Take a look.
Do you think we could ever see that from King Charles?
I think that this was completely unlooked for in Denmark. I think what we had with Queen Margaret is she'd always said she would never do it. You're right. And she may have had back trouble, but I think the problems very clearly were related to the behavior alleged and certainly photographed of Crown Prince Frederik, and the possibility that the marriage with Crown Princess Mary might be a bit rocky. So regarding the idea, though, the fact that Queen Margaret, I mean, they've got 80+% popularity in Copenhagen. I toured some of the royal palaces a bit earlier in the year. It was very interesting seeing a monarchy with such high ratings, and they're very, very wealthy. They've got numerous palaces. They've got a royal yacht. That doesn't matter. The people are totally happy with the way things are being handled. And you could argue Queen Margaret is somebody who's pretty clever, and that she didn't want the royals. If she'd asked to say she lived another 10 or 15 years, that would mean that Crown Prince Frederick was about 70. So she didn't want that. And I'm wondering, I don't think that King Charles would abdicate. I do think, however, that what happened, in fact, towards the end of the reign of the Queen, I mean, where more responsibilities were taken on by others, I do see William and Catherine, given the fact that Charles and the King and Queen Camilla are in their mid-70s. I think it's a good idea that they take on more and more, and I also think they're the world's most glamorous couple, and they project soft power, and I'm delighted they're going abroad, because they haven't been abroad on an official visit together since the Caribbean, which wasn't successful not their fault, a lot of it, in 2022. So Italy beckons, but I hope we'll also see more. I do think that's important. And the reports that King Charles and Queen Camilla are going to Canada, then the Antipodes, and I hope that's firmed up, because the more they tour abroad, it's our secret weapon. It's our best use of soft power.
Yeah, I mean, King Charles waited a very long time. He was 73 years old when he became king, 74 when he did his coronation. So I don't think that he's going to be abdicating anytime soon. But who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Absolutely. We don't know what the future holds, but he's so hardworking. I find it hard to believe.
I find it hard to believe. All right. Well, The Crown has been wrapped up for a few weeks now, but we're still talking about season 6. And it did highlight Princess Kate Middleton's and Prince William's collegiate courtship, but at least one member of their family was displeased with the storyline. So Gary Goldsmith, he's the brother of Kate's mom, Carol Middleton, said on the episode of The Crown Fact or Fiction podcast, "I really, really enjoyed the first couple of episodes and the first series of The Crown, but it seems to just drift into this fantasy world. There's so many parts of it that I don't agree with, and I think the narrative and for trying to get headlines and view an audience. So once it started becoming ridiculous and fantastical, it was very difficult to watch, and so I stopped." He added, "I think for people around the world watching it, they're seeing this and they're believing the truth, and we're thinking, am I watching The Crown or is it Coronation Street?" He defended his sister. Carol says, "I don't understand why Carol hasn't taken legal action, because literally it was that bad. Carol isn't that manipulative, evil person who sat in a dungeon coming up with ways by which she can actually force her way into the royal family. She's strong-willed. She's got opinions. That's why we've got kids and family we've got today." He also stressed that Kate, who married William back in 2011, did brilliantly well to get into the Scottish University on her own. Yeah, I would imagine if I was the Middleton family, I would probably not be happy with how I was portrayed that final season.
Yeah, I received so many messages on social media with people saying the same thing, like they cannot believe how badly the Middletons were portrayed. But by the end of the series, we were definitely getting further and further into fictional world and less out of, what was actually historically accurate. And there's been so many times that Carol Middleton in particular has been portrayed as this really pushy, overbearing, all these really negative words, which in that era that was how, sort of strong business women were sort of portrayed. Right. It was a very misogynistic time for women. And now we've really come a long way where women can be in power and they can be really powerful. But it didn't surprise me as much that this is how they would portray her. It's totally inaccurate. I mean, as Gary Goldsmith says, he doesn't understand why they're not taking legal action. However, I think the way that the Middleton family it's never complained, never explained. Yeah. They've stuck to that the whole time that Catherine's been in a relationship with William. And that is why they all trust each other so much and why that relationship is still so strong. It's because Carol won't go, chasing them with legal papers that relationship is as strong as it is.
No, you're so right. That it would just bring more attention to it, and the immediate family knows the truth, and they have the relationship, and they're going to keep it just like that. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. It would just make more rumblings and more unwanted attention. And but yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't be happy and probably wouldn't be tuning in if I were them. All right, well, moving on over to a book that's making a lot of headlines before it's released. Robert Hartman's The Making of a King, King Charles III and the Modern Monarchy is set to be released soon, but like I said, it's getting a lot of buzz. In it, the author shares a memo of the monarch's final moments from her private secretary, Sir Edward Young, who was at Balmoral when Queen Elizabeth died on September 8th of 2022. He notes in the previously unseen memo, very peaceful, in her sleep, slipped away, old age. She wouldn't have been aware of anything, no pain. The outlet, the Daily Mail, also revealed that while there were concerns for the Queen's well-being at the time, her death occurred with such abruptness that King Charles found himself hastily boarding a helicopter for an 11th hour journey to Balmoral. And like we said, the Queen died shortly thereafter at the age of 96. And during her 70th year of her record-breaking reign, the author also noted a friend saying she had come to realize that the medical prognosis meant she was not going to emulate her mother and reach 100. Of course, the Queen Mother died at age 101 in 2002. So she had been determined to make the most of that year. She made sure she had all of her family over that summer so that the young ones in particular would always be left with happy memories of her, which I love. I think that's such a beautiful anecdote to, realizing, your time is kind of running out, but I want to make some beautiful memories before I say goodbye. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I think that it's really special. We've seen that photograph of all the grandchildren and great grandchildren up at Balmoral in that summer. We know that was just days before Queen Elizabeth II did pass away. And it almost, I still get chills thinking about this and reading about this. And these sources seem to be so close to the royal family and so close to the Queen in particular that you have to wonder why they feel comfortable speaking and why this information is coming out now. Buckingham Palace has stressed that they have no comment. This is unauthorized. They're sort of staying away from it. They're staying at arm's length, but it is so close to the source that we really have to take that into consideration, that this probably is information that was, wanted to be in the public domain.
Definitely. And and kind of piggybacking off of that, we're wrapping it up with our pint-sized palace, but that book also alleges that Queen Elizabeth was not given the heads up that Harry and Meghan would be naming their daughter Lilibet, and it left Queen Elizabeth allegedly furious. So a royal aide claims in the book, as angry as I'd ever seen her after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex publicly stated they received approval to use her childhood moniker for their second child. So the new revelation comes more than 2 years after a palace insider told the BBC that Queen Elizabeth was never asked her opinion on Lilibet's name before she was born in June of 2021. Harry and Meghan said that that's not true. They did get permission, and but who knows? I mean, this is like kind of solidifying that report that I just said that happened 2 years ago, that she wasn't made aware. I don't know if I'd put it past Harry and Meghan to kind of do that. I don't know anymore.
I mean, yeah, this is really interesting. I mean, Harry and Meghan do know that the palace is pretty much never going to confirm or deny anything having to do with them. So it would be safe to release a statement in the knowledge that the palace is never going to sort of correct that statement. Sure. But I wouldn't want to make them not, sort of put that, vilified idea out there. I think that ultimately it's sort of a shame for Lily that this story is sort of floating around, and it wouldn't be nice for her when she grows up to say, oh, was my great grandmother really upset about this? But ultimately it's a special tribute to a very, very important woman. Whether she knew about her beforehand is a really interesting part of the story.
Very interesting. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more tidbits coming out from this book. We are set to speak with Robert next week, so hopefully we can dive even more into some of these big revelations. So that will definitely be something to watch. In the meantime, keep commenting, keep subscribing. And Christine, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. For more news content and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.